Pacers, they defeated the Heat last night, and late in this game, this image right here, it said it all. Jimmy Butler, who has expressed his unhappiness in Miami, he's sitting on the bench, and the rest of his teammates all standing. Jimmy Butler, he isn't happy in Miami, but don't take our word for it. Here is the six-time All-Star last night.
I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon, but I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court, but I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop, and I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
Now joining us is our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania. So Shams, given Jimmy's latest comments that we just heard, where do the Heat stand on making a trade with Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, this is Malika, high-stakes stare-down showdown between two alphas in that Heat organization, Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler. And it's become untenable. Pat Riley said in a statement last week that it's become a distraction for the team and the players, coaches and players. Well, the distraction not only has been reported on for the last few weeks, but now it is playing out in real time. And it's at a point really of no return in those corridors in Miami. And it's taken place over the last several months between the comments Pat Riley made at the end of the season, the fact that there was no extension. This is a Heat team leaning more and more into Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero as that rising core of this organization. And in conversations so far around the league, the Heat have not shown an urgency on a Jimmy Butler trade as of yet. These things are fluid. They can change. There's no immediate trade. But this is something the Heat are going to have to deal with. And where this really reached a breaking point in the last couple days was after Wednesday night's game against the Pelicans, which was a Heat win. The Heat implicated the people around Jimmy Butler that they felt he was not playing hard enough in that game going into Thursday's game. And that was, in a lot of ways, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay, so where could we see this go next? Because the player participation policy, right, it makes it so that players would be fined if they're not actually out there and available for their team. So is Miami going to decide to take that? Should we continue to see Jimmy available? What's the plan there?
The Heat are going to have to use the next day, 2 days to really figure out exactly where this goes. They have a couple options they can do. I mean, eventually this is a conversation that they need to have with Jimmy Butler's representation on how these sides are going to move forward. They have a game tomorrow at home, and then they go out on a long road trip. I'm paying attention very closely. Everyone around the league is paying attention very closely to how the Heat are handling the situation before they start to play in games again, because they know it in that locker room. They know it in that organization. The last couple games has not been tenable for this team.
Shams, thank you so very much. Please do not go too far. As you just mentioned, the situation, it's taken so many twists and turns. It was just a week ago that Pat Riley issued a statement saying that usually I don't comment on this sort of scuttlebutt and rumors is what he called it. But he said, we are not trading Jimmy Butler. And now you have Jimmy making these comments. Shanae, you've actually been in these locker rooms. What's the effect of a teammate maybe that you've had saying, hey, I want out here?
Yeah, it's not fun for the entire locker room. But what we have noticed, especially when it comes to this Miami Heat and the NBA overall, is the NBA is in the middle of a youth movement. And Miami got the memo. We all have seen the product on the floor. Tyler Hero, this is a career year for him, averaging 24 and 5, shooting 41% from three, career highs for him. Bam Adebayo leads the team in double-doubles and rebounds and steals and blocks. They have the two cornerstones that they want to invest in. The question was, could Jimmy still be that guy? And would he be the guy that galvanizes those guys over the edge? And right now, we've seen the answer right now is no. And so I think they found the future, and now they're trying to protect it at all costs.
Well, the way that you do not protect that future is you have a locker room that's in shambles, right? And you have a veteran who is, disgruntled. And that's the issue that we have right now with this Miami Heat team is that this thing is just like they won against the Pelicans. Last night, they did not look good. And it was clear that the Jimmy Butler situation is having an effect on everybody. Minus 27 last night. Jimmy Butler. That's not Jimmy Butler that we're seeing out there. And the thing is, he's following a playbook, right? He's following a playbook that we see with a lot of stars. You're unhappy with your organization. You make enough noise, they find a trade for you. This is not like every other organization. This is the Miami Heat. This is Pat Riley.
Yeah.
And these are going to butt heads, and this is not going to go the way that I think either side really thinks it will.
To answer your question, it's very dangerous because no matter how good your player is or how good your locker room is, everyone will be looking in the corner and being like, we need the full buy-in, because this is a team that a couple years ago we talked about NBA Finals runs. This is what their standard has been. They've moved away from that, but I think they also want to protect that type of upward trajectory.
That's what's a little bit confusing maybe for me. This is a team that's 17-15. That's the same record as the Milwaukee Bucks. This feels primed in a weak Eastern Conference year to have that sort of Miami run that we've all come to know, that we saw in 2020, that we saw in 2023. This is a team that went to 2 out of 4 NBA Finals. We haven't used the term Heat culture in quite some time here.
Well, that's the problem, right? This does not happen to this organization. This does not happen to Pat Riley. This is a new era for them to have to figure this thing out. What you have with Jimmy Butler is a guy who is on 2 ends of a spectrum, depending on who you can get. We can get that playoff Jimmy that can get you to the finals against all odds, or we can get that Minnesota Jimmy who can, really force his way out in a way that we have not seen from a lot of the people.
Right, but that Minnesota Jimmy, that was 8 years ago. So now wondering sort of what player, that's what's going to be interesting to see. What team wants to push their chips in, and does Miami want to make a deal? He's made it clear that he thinks his basketball happiness no longer lies in playing for the Miami Heat. Here's what he had to say last night.
I have no clue. I'm not the coach. We'll try to get him involved, I thought.
Obviously, he's frustrated. He feels like he's, standing in the corner. He's got a lot of things going on in this corner. For us, keep the main thing, like our coach always tells us. We play to win, and that's what it's all about.
So that's Jimmy Butler's teammates on all that they're experiencing as he decides whether or not his future lies in Miami. Back with us now is our front office insider, Bobby Marks. Bobby, you have had decades of experiences in NBA's front offices here. How would you proceed with the Jimmy Butler situation?
Malika, I would send Jimmy Butler home. I would send him home and have a conversation with him and his agent, Bernie Lee, and say, let's revisit this if there's not a trade by February 6th. And let's look at this in the offseason here. I think the Jimmy Butler situation in Miami is a distraction. We've certainly seen that Wednesday and Thursday night when we scored 18 points total here. I know the player participation policy says that a team is not allowed to shut down a player. There's also a unique clause in there based on unusual circumstances that does protect the team. And I think this situation falls under that unusual circumstances. And I think for Butler and for the Heat, I think the best thing is for them to be in their separate ways. And that starts with Jimmy Butler being away from this Miami Heat team.
I want to bring the rest of the panel here in a second, Bobby, but I'm curious, when you say, okay, this falls into maybe those special circumstances, a team or a player would still have to eat the fine, though, if he's not available. And Miami, they are incentivized to make the playoffs this year, right? Because they will lose their first-round picks. It will go to Oklahoma City if they don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it's falls out of the top 6 there, it would go to Oklahoma City here, Malika. But I think, listen, we saw Jimmy Butler on the court last night, and this Heat team lost by double digits to an Indiana Pacers team that's below 500. So I think you have to make the call. Is Jimmy Butler better on the floor with you, playing like he did Wednesday or Thursday night, or being away from the team here? And I'm not talking about suspension. I'll pay Jimmy Butler. The Heat could pay Jimmy Butler here. You can send him home. He can collect the rest of his $48.8 million. And then when we get to this offseason, if there's not a trade by February 6th, let's revisit this, whether it be Butler opting in and then working out a trade, or as he said, becoming a free agent and looking at his options elsewhere. Because we're in this landscape of free agency here where a player walking away from money or a team going in a different direction and not getting a trade asset like we saw at Paul George, that is sometimes in the best interest of a team when you have that flexibility instead of taking back some bad contracts.
Okay, Bobby, thank you so very much. I appreciate that front office perspective. Chiney, the player perspective, though, how do you refocus on the stakes, needing to make the playoffs and not lose that pick if you're Jimmy Butler's teammates?
What's interesting is you've seen the natural sequence of events. At first, the team recognizes the tremendous talent that the player is. Jimmy Butler, I've been in a locker room very similarly where I played with a very talented player, and we're like, we don't want to lose you because we need you. But at some point, the moment Jimmy said, I'd be happier anywhere else than here, that's where you say, all right, we've got to make a change. Because even while that player is there and you see the situation deteriorating, it affects the hearts, the minds, the souls of your team. You have to go out there knowing that that player is not 100%. Meanwhile, you are trying to build upon an opportunity like we were seeing in the Eastern Conference where your team actually has a lot of good, whether it's Tyler Hero having a career high year, Bam Adebayo trying to lead with double-doubles. You don't want that to go to waste, especially in this precious moment of the NBA. For me personally, we had to make the decision where we had to move forward, with what we needed to do to protect our locker room. And the player actually decided to leave. And it was better for both circumstances.
Right.
And I think the Heat have acknowledged that point.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler can't play anymore on this team. He can't be on the bench anymore on this team. This is just too toxic of a situation. And part of this, we're talking about the Jimmy part. Part of this is Pat Riley. He's got to eat some of this, too. There's a lot of ego that was a part of this. And this got out of hand on his watch in a team, as we mentioned, that needs to get into a playoff position this year. So this is part of, both sides are kind of in the wrong, as is the case with most breakups.
Yeah, well, now there's a little bit of a standoff, and we get to see who flinches first.